All right, hello, it's Stephen Sadleir reading from Money and Power, The Secret History. And I've been talking about the Bushes. We started talking about Samuel Bush, the grandfather to George Herbert Walker Bush, our first Bush president. And we realized that he was very intertwined with the commerce and trade with the Rockefellers and with the Harrimans and the Brown brothers that joined with the Harrimans. Brown brothers that worked with the royal money from the United Kingdom. And so the biggest banking, and the Federal Reserve, he was one of the founders in Cleveland. So we see a strong connection with the Bush family going back 4 generations now from our last president. They're involved in oil, steel, banking. There's an interconnection that grows, that develops from generation to generation. Another powerful name you need to know at this point is George Herbert Walker, who was also the head of one of the largest merchant banking companies in the United States, using Morgan money from Europe again, one of the founders of the Union Banking Corporation and the Hamburg American line. So there's a very strong connection again with Germany showing up again and again and again, particularly with shipping. And later he became quite an oil magnate. His daughter, though, so George Herbert Walker's daughter Dorothy marries Samuel's son, Prescott, and their son becomes George Herbert Walker Bush. So George Herbert Walker was one grandfather, Samuel Bush was the other grandfather, and Prescott's son was George Herbert Walker Bush. So now as we go into looking at Prescott Bush, the son, first thing we might say about him is he was a senator from Connecticut. He was one of the partners in the Brown Brothers Harriman Merchant Banking, and the Union Banking Company, along with Morgan. So we see Morgan, Harriman, we see these same names coming up again and again because they're all partners. We also see that he was involved in intelligence. He worked with the Rockefellers, and he was one of the founders of the Central Intelligence Agency. Now, it's very important you understand that Prescott Bush, the father of George Herbert Walker Bush, was one of the founders and lead people in the CIA, working with the Dulles family. Look at the connections with the royalty of England, again, through the Schroeder Bank and the Dulles. Look at the connections between the Brown Brothers Bank and Harriman's Bank that joined together, representing, again, English money. So we have intelligence and banking intimately twined with the highest levels of banking and government in the United States and the world. Their kids, so Prescott Bush and Dorothy Walker married, had kids. Their kids were Prescott or Bushy Bush, or Bush II, right? George Herbert Walker Bush was second born. He became our first Bush president. There's a Nancy Bush and then a Jonathan Bush, who ends up becoming a director of the Riggs Bank in Washington and part of the Federal Reserve. It's important to know it. And William Bush was then born. He became an investment banker representing more of this money. So before either of our presidents were even born, they're already at the very top of the economic and political power base in the United States and the world.